evening to you and welcome. Lovely for you to join us tonight. I'm broadcasting here from the UK, but we're going out onto YouTube and Facebook, and I really hope you're going to enjoy our conversation tonight. A couple of T's and C's before we start the show. If you see any spammers or any weird links in the feed, our lovely, marvelous Michelle is at the back end trying to make sure that she gets on top of them and deletes them, but please don't click them. This broadcast is live and it's free, so you don't have to pay for it. We've got a great hour in store for you tonight. I want to quickly go through and see who's online, see who's joined us tonight, because this time of the day, it means we can catch you guys in the US and also you guys in the UK, lots from Europe as well. So let's have a quick look to see who is online and see where you're joining us from. Let's have a quick look, shall we? So we have got Saul from Canada. We have Drew from Scottsdale and Richard from Minneapolis. All these places I really want to visit because I see all these states come through and I'm like, I've never been there. Mal from Tadcaster in North Yorkshire. We have Don from Atlanta and we've got Richard from Essex. So we've got a whole group of people. Robbins Wildlife says, tuning in from the UK, Andy is responsible for me moving from Cannon to Olympus. Big thanks, Andy. So we've got lots of people out there. Say hello. Come and join us. If you have any questions as we go along, we will try and answer them. But it's about me tonight. I'm going to shut up really quickly and I'm going to get this amazing guest on. So you all know this fantastic wildlife photographer. Andy has won over 30 awards worldwide. He was BBC Wildlife Photographer of the Year. He was a European Photographer of the Year, American Photographer of the Year. Did you know that he has 20 books published? 20 books, that's a lot. That's someone who knows their stuff, right? And so I saw Andy a little while ago and we haven't had you on the live for ages. Let's make a special show so that we can get people out there to see what you've been up to. And I'm sure lots of people out there follow Andy. But I wanted to get him on and have a chat with him myself. So welcome, Andy Rouse.
I'm learning to play the ocarina, look.
I mean,
that's a song by Depeche Mode.
I mean, I would say a couple of lessons maybe you need.
I bought this from Ecuador, look, for my daughter. So
I love it. Yeah. I was going to say don't give up your day job, but that...
I don't have a job, remember. I have a lifestyle.
Oh, is that what it is? It's a lifestyle.
That's a bit blank up there. Needs a few pictures up there, I think. I've got to get some
pictures. It does. Yeah, you've got enough that we could get you to... So welcome, my lovely. How are you?
I'm good, apart from doing my back in today. It's been a mad year for me. I've been traveling a hell of a lot this year. This is the first year since COVID, of course. So we've been traveling constantly since February. Literally, I've had 4 days between trips, literally, to be at home. So this is the first time I've been at home for 6 weeks, and I leave again in 3 weeks. So it's been really nice to be at home. I kind of miss doing my local wildlife a lot. But next year I've left lots of gaps. I've left lots of gaps next year, but I'm the kind of guy that works on projects, which you're going to hear. I work on favorite animals that I love, which certain animals you're going to see. And I'm not the kind of guy that zips around everywhere just because I've got to take a picture. Do you think that, like, since COVID and we were all forced to just examine exactly what we did, that actually you spent a lot of time abroad and now it's nice to be home sometimes, isn't it? You've got the missus and you've got a daughter, and sometimes you just want to be home, and the local photography wildlife is pretty good, right? Yeah, I mean, I don't feel a desire to go out every day. I mean, I went out today. I'm starting an otter project on river otters locally. So I'm just sitting in my ghillie suit next to a stream for 2 hours. We're seeing absolutely nothing and getting wet. But that's what we do. And I'm probably just going to do that one project all winter. That's all I'm going to do. I enjoy being at home. I'm very boring. I watched the Women's Rugby League in the World Cup today. I watched the cricket this morning. In between, I did a load of work, did some processing. my life when I'm at home is pretty boring, actually, but that's what I really enjoy. I like just vanishing and being a nobody when I'm at home.
So, talk to me.
Away, but, you know.
Yeah, talk to me about the fact that you're the patron of the UK Wild Otter Trust. I mean, what does that sort of entail? What do you do with that?
All I do with that, I was asked to do that, and I kind of do lots of PR for them. If they do a post, they need a bit of fundraising, I'll do a bit for them. I'm now involved in the Southwest Otter Group, Wales Otter Group, which is here. SWAT. SWAT, yep. Which has got some brilliant people in it, really dedicated people that go out and monitor for otters here, because we've got a very good population, primarily for the reason of protecting them against developers. And just in the water courses, because the water courses around here are fantastic. So we're doing that kind of stuff. They're a really good local otter group, and I just kind of lend my name to it. If anyone, I don't really get involved with conservation that much because people don't ask me. There are a lot more talented people in the world than me that can make a difference to the world. So if somebody asks me for my help, I willingly give it. It's not that I'm interested. I'm not interested. I just don't really get asked these days. I used to be really involved I've been involved in polar bear conservation a lot, just putting the message out from clever people to make sure. That's how I use a lot of my followers. You know, I use Twitter to put all the messages out for other people to see.
Yeah, I mean, and don't forget that owl picture went viral on Facebook, didn't it? So if you do have a platform, and so actually it's a big platform. I mean, how many pictures or how many times owl pictures seen or shared?
It's the hummingbird.
Was it the hummingbird?
1.2 million.
Wow.
This year. I had a month of in excess of 700,000 views of various images, and then it went up beyond the million. Now it's an average of 30,000. So, but I don't really look at that. I try to comment. Everyone who puts a comment on one of the images, I try to comment back. It becomes a bit of a strain when it's a million. I have to say.
Yeah. You have your notifications on. Ding, ding, ding.
But normally, I get 150 comments. I can easily sit down and just do that when I'm having a coffee, having a coffee somewhere, having a break. And if someone's had spent the time to say something nice about my picture, then I'll say something nice back. If something's said the time to be horrible, then it takes just as long to press the block button.
I know. So obviously, if you're out there and you know Andy's work, or if you don't know Andy's work, I'd be surprised if you didn't. He does have a big Instagram and Facebook community and a massive YouTube community, and he also runs a thing called Wild Bunch, which is is it a weekly get together or fortnightly?
It's an online community where I set them challenges every month. So this month it's autumn color, but the main subject has to be autumn color. So if it has wildlife, it has to feature it. And at the end of the month, I pick my favorites. We do a club cast. We do a live gallery for all the members. We do meetups. The club cast is tomorrow night. So I've got two members, one presenting on ICM, so intentional camera movement, where you move the camera when the shutters open. The other one presenting on is Cicadea that he's just done. And then I'm going to give a talk on swans and geese.
Nice.
For this time of the year. So once a month here we do that. So it's kind of an online community. It grew out of lockdown when I was making videos every couple of weeks on YouTube called Wild Angle of what I was doing, and I've really been really bad. I've got out of the habit because it takes a long time to edit pictures, edit videos. And what I've done, I've made myself much more mobile. This laptop that I am presenting on, I do all my processing of all my images on this laptop.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I've got coming down with a bad cold. I don't use the big screen, the big monitor, and the desktop Mac and all that's here. I use this laptop because it means I can process when I'm on a plane or in a car or sitting in a coffee bar. I can just get my images out the door.
Right, okay. So if any of you have got any questions for our lovely Andy, please put them in the comments. Obviously, we will try and get through as many as we can. We've got a big audience out there, and it would be really nice to, if you've got anything you would like to ask our lovely photographer. Firstly, we're going to jump straight into some images, aren't we? So let's have a look at the first image. Drum roll. I love the ocarina. Hey, ocarina.
This is a
Tell
cuckoo,
us about this.
Yeah. Well, this has a special meaning because when you first came round to my house to loan me some tips, see, the only thing Andy Rouse's name can't get you into any restaurant or recognised or any freebies, but sometimes with a camera company they will loan you stuff if you're interested to try it. And I was very interested to try Olympus. So this was an EM1X. It was the first night that I actually used it. So you brought the gear around and explained how to work, and I was like, yeah, okay. So I went out and had a cuckoo sight with my friend. And when the cuckoo was flying around us, I had the 300 f4 on, which is a fantastic lens, 600mm reach. And I shot it in my normal style. So my view is no matter what camera gear you do use, you should shoot in a style. And you should find that style your whole life. So my style is, I love backlit. I'm obsessed by backlight. I love it coming through the wings. And I've got loads of pictures of cuckoos with the light on them. This is the first time I actually haven't managed to get one, with the wings out, not flying away from me and flying with the sun behind it. It was really, really great. Obviously to see the exposure in the viewfinder, so I could dial it down by -1 stop, use all the autofocus points, to track it across the frame. Very lucky that the background was very diffuse. So, all cameras struggle with distracting backgrounds.
Yeah.
So I was very lucky that it wasn't a forest or something. It was just a hillside. And bang, it's got a nice angle in the frame. I really, really liked it. And I thought, from that night on, okay, this is something quite impressive, particularly as somebody next to me was using another system and they didn't lock onto it as well.
And this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, cuckoos are quite hard to photograph, aren't they? They're quite quick. So, choosing this as your subject for a brand new system is not a challenge for you because obviously you know what you're doing. But when you've got new buttons and new modes and new things and pieces, you're like, ooh, let's have a. I don't know.
ProCapture the first night. I actually used ProCapture the first night as well because I thought, well, look, it can't be that hard, right? If you kind of thought it. So I used ProCapture to get a cuckoo landing onto the branch and it worked. And I was like, oh my God, this is like the first night I've used this camera.
So yeah, Gary Lubin says settings.
Oh my good God. My normal setting. No, this was just normal tracking. My normal setting is ISO 800. I always shoot at higher ISO no matter what the light so that I can get a decent shutter speed because shutter speed is king for everything we do. So I don't worry about low ISOs. In fact, I shoot just on the OM1. I've been shooting ISO 16,000 because I don't care about the final image. I don't care about the process. I don't care about the noise. I care about the story and the image. And I think too many times we don't. So ISO 800, and it would have been f4. Of course, it was f4 of the lens. It would have been CAF. Options were limited on the EM1X. I can't even remember using the EM1X anymore. But it was CAF, and it would have been kind of a grid of points.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's a sort of like you say, when you get a new system, you're like, right, I'm going to set it up on what I know, but this is your. You didn't even need to use ProCapture because you know what you're doing, don't you? So
this kind of you have to know the thing about ProCapture is, which we're going to obviously talk about next time. You have to know when to use it and when not to use it, and that's one of the tricks. I've got a lot of stuff on it in my OM1 training course that I do. There's a lot of stuff about when to use it and when not to.
Funnily enough, while we're talking about ProCapture, Andy is actually doing a masterclass Zoom session for us on the 15th of November. There are still places. It's like £10, but the day before, Smith is doing one, and that's all about the actual setup in the camera, the technical bit, how to set it up. But Andy's is more about not just the setup, but when to use it, when not to use it, what types of speeds and so on. So if you want to join, there are still places on that Zoom available.
There'll be a lot of practical examples, a lot of text on it and stuff like that. I'll take some stuff out of the OM1 training course and put on it so people can see what you can do with it.
Okay. Let's go to the next image. We've got some few good questions coming in, but want to make sure I get people to see some of your lovely, lovely images. Thanks, Michela. Okay, next.
Well, you can see it on the wall behind. Quite a special moment, this picture. This is the day I proposed to my wife as well. I proposed to her on the ice in front of everyone. Nice. Got down on my knee and all that. So, it was really great. And then in the evening, we were in the pack ice in Svalbard in the Arctic. And had a mother and a young bear at a distance we saw. So we immediately switch off the ship and just drift into the side of an iceberg and wait. And then it's up to the polar bear if the polar bear wants to come in and interact us. And it can take, like this mother and the young one, it took a couple of hours for them to come in. But when they came in, it was right into the front of the ship. I couldn't see because lots of my clients in front of me shooting. Obviously, they get priority. So
get at the back.
I kind of reached over the top and turned the screen to me and used the screen to take this. And it's actually quite good shooting it from slightly high because it put the back bear. I believe everything has to be in its own compartment. And you see here that the bears are in their own compartment of this piece of ice. If that small bear at the back had it been breaking the edge, I would have actually have hated this image, because I think I like everything to be quite neat, which is very hard in wildlife world. It's just my thing as being a pro for 25 years. I've always wanted to keep my standard as high as I can. But I remember this was ISO like 1600, which on the EM1X is high. You know, it's pushing it on the EM1X. It is, especially you got to look. There's no light there. The sun has set, so there's no light quality whatsoever. So all I do, I expose it a little bit brighter than you would normally, because if you expose it dark and you have to brighten it, then that's where you get your noise in the darks and stuff. So I didn't do any of that. So I exposed it plus a third, I think, plus even 2/3. So it's nicely exposed. So I didn't really have to do any exposure processing. And I just, if there's noise in it, I just use software to take the noise out. There's plenty of good software. I use OM Workspace right now to take all my OM1 noise out. Otherwise, there's plenty of other good software around to take noise out. I'm not really interested in that. So it was amazing, and it was taken with a fisheye, 8mm.
Yeah.
The 8? It's the 8.
8mm. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those lenses where it doesn't work on everything, but this just absolutely, because you could have lost the zoom, you could have zoomed in, you could have did the thing, but actually that text, the context shot is absolutely stunning, isn't it?
Well, I tried to use it this year when I was up there this year, the 8mm, and we didn't get near enough to a bear to actually do it, because obviously the bear's got to be relaxed next to the ship. And stuff like that. So we didn't really get near enough. So it was nice to do it. Obviously, I put the focus point on the bear at the bottom there, the adult. And depth of field, well, on a fisheye, especially a micro four thirds fisheye, depth of field doesn't matter. So you can use 2.8. And people say, oh, yeah, that's about, 4.5 to 5.6 on a full frame. Well, but with a fisheye, it's kind of to the moon that's in focus anyway. So you can get away with using very, very low apertures on a fisheye and get a lot of depth of field. And to be honest, I'm not the kind of guy, I always call landscape photographers the kind of photographers that want to photograph two rocks 5 miles apart and see the lichen on them. I'm not into doing that, right? So I don't care about the background. The background, you can see it's ice, you can see it's clouds. It doesn't have to be detailed to me. What's detailed is that the polar bear's in the front and getting the expression and the foot position right. So I'm very careful when I shoot. Obviously, I've got a tiny focus point. I'm not allowing the camera to take control in a situation like this. I know cameras got face detect, they take control. I don't allow that. I override it. And it's my job as a photographer to put the focus point where I want it, but also look at the leg position. I'm trying to get the leg position exactly right, because there's nothing worse than having like gangly legs where the thing looks like it's falling over. So foot forward, positive motion, looking back into the frame, and trying to get enough of the habitat in it with a bit of sky. The sky was pretty rubbishy further up, so I kind of cut it at that point. And, you got to remember with a fisheye that you got to look down. It's the action of looking down that bends the horizon. If you look up, it curves the horizon. A fisheye is actually a really good wide angle. It's a fantastic quality 8mm wide, or 16, but a quality wide angle. It's really great to use as a wide angle.
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, it's one of those things where I don't think I use it enough. And then when I do find or use a shot that I've loved, I think, why do I not get that out of the bag more often?
I only take it to the Arctic. I only take it to the Arctic with me. Everywhere else, I take, instead of the fisheye, I take an infrared camera with me. So that's what I'm getting more into, doing a lot more infrared. But when I go to the Arctic, the fisheye is the first lens in the bag. Because if I get onto the pack ice, it shows the top of the Earth impression, and it works really, really well.
Yeah. So Martin says, fabulous image. Love the way it looks like they're sitting.
I know him.
Mark the Gooner.
Gooner.
Martin is a fabulous guy. We go back a long way. Martin and I, we've been going workshops for years, and he's a Gooner like me. Sorry about that.
You need to explain it to our American followers that a Gooner is referred to as an Arsenal fan.
An Arsenal fan.
And I am a Hammer, because I am a West Ham fan. And every time you meet a West Ham fan in the street, do that. Everyone thinks you're mad. You do that.
Yeah, it's not X Factor. It's I'm a Hammer. Okay, let's have a look at your next image, and we can go through some questions at the end. Okay. Oh, I love this. How the light is stunning.
So this was taken during lockdown, when my whole world was pulled from under me. My whole business was pulled from under me. And I know there's a lot of people that have suffered a great deal during lockdown, much worse than me. But my business was pulled. I had 2 tours going to India where suddenly clients couldn't go the second week. My mental health was bad enough as it was at that time, and I did have issues. Our house flooded. I just won a big award. I was with you, if you remember. I won an award. Came back the next day. My house was flooded. This was 3 weeks before lockdown in the UK. So we had to move out onto a farm. It was like just a nightmare come true. And I remember the day that lockdown happened, it was the day we moved in on the farm. And we only had 2 bags, and I had my cameras with me. Of course I did. And so I said to Susie, let's just go for a walk around the farm. On the first day, I won't take the cameras and we'll see what we see. And we walked around and there was fields, there were some lakes with swans. It was okay. I thought, there might be some things I can do here, because none of us knew, right, what was going to happen.
No.
And then I popped into this barn on the way back. I said to Susie, I've got to look. It looks like an old barn. There's good exits and entrances. There might be an owl in there. She says, don't be silly. So I walked in, and there's a little owl sitting on the rafters. And I've been doing little owls for years, right? So I know what to look for. And by the time I got Susie in, there was no little owl in there, gone. But I could see all the smoke coming down. I looked at the pellets. And observing as I did the little owls, I could see where their entrances and exits were. And I looked one morning when I was out for a walk at sunrise. I could see them from a distance through binoculars, sunning themselves in this old entrance to the barn, because it was obviously warm first thing in the morning. This is end of March, so it's pretty cold. And you can see this barn, it's 1763 is the date it was built, which is just amazing. And when they said, it's like a couple of Mickey Mouse ears as well. It's quite funny.
Oh, I love it.
And I was if you watch my YouTube channel, which by the way has some of the worst editing known to mankind, I do it deliberately. So please, budding filmmakers, watch it and learn how not to. But I saw on it, I saw these owls, and I decided, how am I going to get there? Because it's a flat ploughed field. I couldn't get my car on it. So I just had a bag hide, got there before sunrise, and just sat there a long distance using the 300 f4 with the converter. So I guess it's about 900 mils. And again, normal settings, ISO 800, that kind of thing, 5.6. And when they come out, I'm shooting silently. So there's no worry about the owls getting scared. They're very interested in me because I'm some oik in the field that looks like a tree stump. I don't wear pure camouflage gear because that makes you look like a human. Yeah,
but you wear a ghillie sort of suit.
I wear a ghillie and a bag hide to break my shape, because otherwise, if you don't, you just look like a human wearing a camouflage jacket. It's pointless. You just look like a human in a camouflage jacket. So I wear something that breaks my shape up. That means that they're not bothered. So I literally took all my pictures in the first minute of sunrise, because I couldn't really improve on this, right? And I didn't have a zoom. I didn't have my zoom then, unfortunately.
Right.
So, but then you have to sit there and wait until they go, which was 2 hours, which was with my back, it's not a good thing. So I sat and waited until they went in, and then I went, and I was in such a good mood for it, because it was like, I love little owls, and I think it was one of the nicest old-fashioned barns I've ever found to put them in. And I didn't bother returning because I've got that shot. So I shot, I don't repeat, right? So I shot from a different angle, and I did different parts of the barn and stuff like that. And then I managed to find some wrens and some swans, and there was looking at some otter spray. So I began to find other things on this farm to occupy myself, while all around us, we were just getting doom and gloom. And I was only on this farm for 3 weeks before we moved, because we had to move to another barn, where I found all my kingfishers and lots of other wildlife, and something you're going to see now in a minute.
Okay.
Well, in many ways, lockdown was really good for me. And I know for a lot of people, it caused a lot of sadness and hardship. And it was hard for me, but it was also good because it reset some of the issues that I was having, and made me fall in love again with the local wildlife.
Me too.
It's very easy when you go to Africa 3 or 4 times a year, which I did. And I was going to India 7 times a year, see tigers. It's very easy to forget what you've got on your doorstep. And it's lovely seeing tigers. I still love it. It's my favourite tiger on the wall here, Noor. She means a lot to me. She's like my muse. But I just forgot how much I love deer stalking and hares and stuff like that. So, lockdown in some ways was very good for me. Any questions or not?
Yeah, well, we're going to go through some questions at the end so that we can talk about it, because I want to make sure that people get to see your images. But it does say, Mal says, fantastic image also in Andy's book, Being Into Nature.
Yeah, I wrote an image. I wrote a whole book about lockdown, and it's very honest about mental health and coping strategies and mental health strategies and everything, all featuring Olympus from start to finish. And it's all about my struggles and how I got over them. And a lot of people who have mental health issues and struggle have found it really useful, almost a manual to get through stuff, which for me, it wasn't a commercial success, but it wasn't written to be a commercial success. It was written to show other people, look, you think I'm well known. Yeah, I can be honest about myself.
Well, I mean, Olympus, as we were then, were the only manufacturer that actually stayed at work. Everyone else across the UK was furloughed, and we went into overdrive on online stuff. And we said, we know from the people that sort of said to us, if it hadn't been for you guys, I would have gone crazy, because we gave them projects, we did lives. I mean, when you look at some of those early streams, it looks like we're using 2 megabit width and sort of the quality is poor because they didn't know what we were doing. And as I said, I totally agree that it's helped some people reset, and wildlife and photography, what a perfect combination.
The best. It's a shame. It's a shame that a lot of people have forgotten that since lockdown and gone back into busy life mode.
Yeah. Exactly. Let's move on. Okay, Michelle, can we have another image, please, my lovely? Derek!
I'm going to prop myself up on the cushion here because I've got a bad back. So excuse me.
Yes, all right. I know this is Derek, isn't it? This is our lovely Derek.
So during lockdown, I started to go to a place that was really good for hares, and a friend of mine were just amazing to show me where these hares were on their land. And it's just been incredible since then. And there was one hare that I befriended called Derek. And I don't normally name wildlife but we name our tigers, right? Because we see our tigers all the time. And I started to name the hares. And Derek, I could find, he had a nick on his ear and a mark on his back. He was very identifiable. And Derek would let me crawl up to him, providing, hares, there's a certain way of approaching them. And I learned everything from Victorian gamekeepers, reading books on their techniques. And I learned it awful long time ago. Was there's a way to crawl up to a hare where it doesn't run away. And I remember on this day, it was amazing mist. And I went out, I was like, I've got to find some roe deer. I couldn't find some roe deer in the mist, which is unusual there. And then I saw this one hare sitting in the dark. So I started to crawl. And I knew that I'd get close enough where it would just pop its head up. And I was all the time visualizing what to do when it put its head up, because I didn't want it to put its head up in the dark. So I approached it deliberately with the wind in my face, but at a deliberate angle, so that when it put its head up sideways, it would be silhouetted like that. And I didn't shoot. I think this may have been on the 100 to 400, one of the first ones we had in the country I had.
Yeah, I remember.
I'm pretty sure. And I shot this obviously at -2 because it's a silhouette. So I'm shooting it in camera. I'm not making it on the computer. I'm trying to shoot it in camera. So -2 stops down. Same ISO 800. Whatever. One of the reasons I shoot high ISO when there's plenty of light is that I can get plenty of shutter speed. So if the hare runs away, often they'll kick water up. It's a really good picture. If I don't have a high shutter speed, it will be blurred and a waste of time. So I give myself a chance of getting something from nothing by setting a high shutter speed. And I like the composition of this. It's got like a leading edge out the bottom corner there with coming across in the streaks. And it works well. And it's Derek. And I love Derek. Yeah.
And, I just love the fact that he's looking, he's sussing out what's going on. You sort of almost, even though you can't see him, the detail, you almost sort of know what he's doing. And that's what I love about this image. It's there's almost like a familiarity straight away, because you're like, he's sitting, he's sorting out, sort of looking at his area, checking out what's going on. You don't need facial expressions to tell the story, and that's what I love about this.
And you don't need close-ups all the time of pictures, and I've deliberately not put in close-ups, as you've seen so far, because I think too many of us, we shoot too close all the time. And I've got loads of I've literally got headshots of ears, I've got hairs. I've got eye shots I've got so close recently, but they don't tell the story that I want to tell. I want to tell the story of the light and the habitat and the composition all together. That's what this kind of image actually does, I think.
I love it, absolutely love it. Right, so straight on next image, because I need to keep my eyes on the time, but also we want to go through some of the questions at the end.
This is our baby little owlet, and I put this in because I've got zillions of images to show that always the same images of mine get shown on all my shows. So tonight I thought I'd try and put some different stuff in, but I just love it. I just love it. Nice. Can you go back? Can you zoom back to the right one?
Zoom back a bit. Yeah, there you go.
I'm quite opinionated to that, because that's the way I shot it.
Yeah.
Right. So, directly at me, there's the center line. It's slightly on the left of the center line looking out, which is what I wanted. I didn't want it to cross the center line because it's leaning in. I thought the composition was a lot better if I keep it on the left looking outwards. It was really cute. The sun is on the horizon, so it's first thing in the morning. So that's when I was out. This is shot with 100-400 normal settings. I like the backdrop behind. I don't like bird on a stick with nothing behind it. For me, I can't. It looks like a stuffed bird. I much prefer having some habitat, some trees, some light, something going on behind it. It doesn't distract, in my opinion. It enhances the picture. And it was amazing to sit there and watch these baby little owls. I've never made. It's funny. I shot a load of videos, and I've never actually put the video together of this. And I kind of wrote a note in my book the other day that I should edit it for Wild Angle because it's a very cute video with all these kind of owls. Just beautiful. I just love little owls. They just make me laugh.
Do you prefer to shoot in the morning or in the afternoon? Is it golden hour or golden morning? What's your...
As a bloke that doesn't like getting up at 4 in the morning or 3 in the morning, I do much prefer shooting in the afternoon. But most animal activity period is at a height in the mornings.
Right.
Because they're coming off activity overnight. So you see them,
right.
Or the daytime animals are starting their activity in the morning. The light is at its purest and friendliest. Although you are always struggling because the light's getting worse. Whereas in the evening, the light's getting better, in my opinion, until the sun sets. And then it can get better again because you can get silhouette light and twilight and stuff like that.
Right.
In the morning, you can forget me getting out for twilight. It's just not going to happen.
Well, it's like dark at 4:30 now. So for you, your day is shrunk.
I love the winter. It's just brilliant.
Yeah, but you have like such a smaller window now to go out and do stuff, though, don't
perfect.
you?
Yeah, but so do animals. Animals have a smaller window. Like kingfishers have a smaller window in which to hunt.
Right.
In summer, they can hunt from 4 in the morning until 11 o'clock at night. Well, that's a long time to sit and hide bored. But in the winter, it's like 9 o'clock in the morning till 3:30 in the afternoon. So that's easy. It's a lot easier.
No,
I just love it. Simple picture, nice light, cute.
Thank you. Michaela, let's another look. Ooh, now who is this?
Arrowhead. So this is Arrowhead in January 2020. So this was I kind of gone back and coming back towards modern times, if you like, recent times.
Yeah.
So this was just, I guess, the 2 months before lockdown. I was in India. Beautiful light in India in January. You don't see as many tigers as you do later on in the year, but when you do see them, it's all about the light. And we had Arrowhead here, who's a fantastic, if frustrating tigress. We all know very, very well. This is before she'd had any young. So she looked kind of like a young tiger here. You can tell her nose is not that mottled. So she's about 4 here. But it's a nice pose. She came in the red light. It was literally the last light of the sun. And when she turned to look, I knew that was the pose I want. So once again, there's the center line. So I put her head on the left-hand side, looking out to the right. And looking across the line of her body. And I'm not going to zoom into that, because I've got the lovely grass out of foreground as a natural picture frame there with the leg coming just a bit forward. I think it's just a very nice, gentle, autumnal Ranthambore picture. And I love it a lot. And the problem with shooting red light at the end of the day is that the light quality is generally rubbish. There's no power. There's no power on the sun. So the light levels you get are much lower than you get 10 minutes after sunrises. You get much stronger light than 10 minutes before you get the sunsets.
Right. Yeah, I suppose it's going in the sort of minus direction rather than in the plus direction, right?
Yeah, it is. So you have to be aware of that all the time. And you can get, very strange light quality at that time of the day. Luckily, it all came together and worked. But we worked pretty hard to get this all week long. And I'd say on this trip, I've probably got 5 pictures that I regularly show. And that's it, of all the loads that I shot.
And when are you back to India?
3 weeks time. First time since COVID. So first time I've seen my kind of one of my really best friends. First time I've seen them in 2.5 years.
Yeah. So I bet you can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait. I've got 7 nice clients going as well. It's gonna be really great. It's gonna be a really great week. And then I've got a month there in March, or not a month, but a few weeks there in March for the next time. So yeah, I can't wait to go back. Tigers are special. I love tiger photography because you have to be quick. You have to be fast, you have to be motivated, you have to know what you're doing. So I'm in control in the front of the Jeep, very much not being told what to do. I know Ranthambore inside out, so I'm very much in control of the group and what we're doing. And it's my job to get everyone in the right position at the right place, taking pictures. I take pictures, we're all happy.
Yeah, but you want your clients to come back with amazing images, right? That's the plan.
Yeah, and I love that pressure. I thrive on that pressure.
Right. Yeah, you've got to be on it, because like you say, it can all be done in a few seconds, can't it? You know, it can all be over
in a few seconds. Yeah. So, but it was good, as you can see.
And these are all shot with EM1X and EM1 Mark III and 300mm, I assume, because this was before OM1 and the Beast.
So this was a 300 f4. Yeah, it might have been. I also used I love the 40 to 150, as you know, and I would often put a 1.4 on that. So this could have been that combination with the 1.4. So it's about a 450mm effective range, which is, it looks about that.
Yeah, I agree.
That 40 to 150 has a very nice bokeh effect on it, and I still use it to this day. For all my aviation is shot on it, but a lot of other stuff is shot on it as well. I just love it.
We'll talk about your aviation in a minute. Let's have a look at your next shot. Oh, I've not seen this. Is this recent? This is beautiful.
Yeah, it's like summer in a picture, and it's the wildlife photography course that I just made. They followed me around doing various things, and they followed me to one of my sites where I go, which is just one field. And I know in this one field, I know all of the deer in this one field and where they are at any one time, and the buck and the young buck and the old buck that kind of is on the edge. I know where they all are. I've just stuck a hide up there now with a salt lick, so that they can come in to get some minerals off the salt lick. Because the one that I haven't got, I want to do a book on roe deer. I've got everything I need, right? Apart from tiny babies with spots and their mother. So I'm setting up the hide ready for next spring, the next June, July. So I've got a chance of getting that, and I need the hide to get knackered and weathered and fall apart so that they're used to it. But this is stalking in the field. So ghillie suit, which is pretty useless in a field full of wheat or barley, wheat. It's pretty useless, but it does give you that image of not being a human again. And not being a human gives me a lot more seconds than a human would have to get pictures. So I saw the antlers. I've got a thermal imaging camera, so it can be pretty hard with your eyes. So I spot the field. I saw the antlers in the thermal imager. I put it in the track because I don't want to stalk with that kind of rubbish. Put my binoculars down, and I just crawled up like a mad thing. I can crawl pretty fast, like below the height of the crops. Got to where I thought was a good spot. Just peered up very gently. I could see the antlers again. I thought, this is it. And I'm just going to sit and wait and see what happens. Because when it comes out to the crossroads, it will probably see me and look at me, and I'll get a stand. Well, it saw me. It sensed me a long time before it got to the crossroads. But I shot it vertically because it was just beautiful. It was just a really beautiful, nice old buck, giving me some nice attention. And because I shot across the top of the barley, I think it's got a little bit of out of focus stuff around the bottom of the nose. I think it works really well. I was just on a high. And when I go deer stalking, I set out to get one picture.
Right.
When I go out in the morning, I set out, and if I get one picture of a roe deer that I like, I'm happy. That's it. I don't set out to have a gigabyte's worth, or fill up a card, because you can't with quality pictures. I just go for quality rather than quantity. And I'm
assuming this is with the 150 400.
No, it's with the 100 to 400. When if I'm stalking, a lot of the time the 150 is fine. I've got this place I do use it, but if I'm kind of got to be really, really active and stalking and getting in bushes quickly and poking out, I find just 100 to 400 is a lot easier to poke out of a bush than the slightly bigger lens. And I'm very happy with the quality of it. So I actually zoomed back and I shot a landscape of this as well, slightly wider. And then after that, it was go bye. And at that point, he's told everybody that you're there. Everybody knows you're there.
So it's time to go home.
Coffee time.
Yeah.
I've done my job, and I'm done by. Normally, they don't come into the field until it's slightly warm. So I know from roe deer 6:30 in the morning in the summer. It's a very good time to be in the fields because I see often the babies are in the fields, but they're hard to see in the crops. That's why I've set the hide up. But for this guy, this is the shot I wanted, and I love it when I manage to execute it.
Love it. No, it's a great shot, as they all are. Michela, next shot, please. What's this young feathery
blue tit
subject? It's a blue tit
in my garden, and I photograph a lot right down below here. A lot of my wild bunchers know that I often come in and say, "Oh, sorry, I've been late. I've had a few goldfinches in the garden I've been messing with." But I like to photograph the birds in my garden because if I feel I need to go and do some photography, it gets my brain working. I can do it here, and then I can come and do whatever work I've got to do to stay in business, running tours, all that kind of stuff. So I've got these coming into my bird table outside. This is the first shot I took, the OM1. and on the 150 to 400, and using the tracking of the OM1, which is normally with the EM1X, I'd set it up to fly through a point and then you trigger it when you think it does, just because this is the hardest tracking you can do, backlight tracking. But I did this with the OM1 backlit tracking, and I was just astounded that it could pick it up and track it. It was just awesome. Couldn't get enough of it. And I processed quite a lot of pictures of this one shoot. But to get the perfection of the wings, that's a one-off deal. And I'm shooting on a 50 frame a second drive. So I've got the 50 frame a second drive on, but I'm not using Pro Capture. I'm using tracking. I could use Pro Capture, but I'm just using SH2, which is the super high drive speed. I use, not to give away too many of the things that I've got in my guides, but I use a certain kind of autofocus point to go across it to help me do the tracking. And there are certain ways to set this up. Obviously, I'm shooting at -1, -2 stops. I don't know really what to do all that. The first couple of pictures you use are a test. You try them out. Oh, that's too dark. That's too light. And you get to know, the reason I shoot in my garden is because you get to know it. You get to know where the sun comes up at a certain time of year and where to shoot backlit, where to do my garden fights. I've got people coming here next week to take pictures of the fights which happen in my garden with goldfinches in the afternoon in beautiful light, if it is beautiful light, or even if it's rain. Normally in the afternoon, it's a perfect spot. So I know all of these places, and this is shot from my conservatory. It's not shot from I shoot from the garage. I shoot from the front door, sit inside the front door. I don't wear a ghillie suit. They're just susceptible to movement. Even garden birds, that have been used to you for ages are still susceptible to movement. So I just sit there in normal clothes with a coffee, have the radio on in the background. They get used to it, and I shoot away and enjoy myself. I think you have to be in a good mood.
Yeah, I mean, and garden birds, they know humans more than, say, like a deer or roe would do. So, like you say, although they're not going to sit and pose for you, they at least, don't mind you wandering around in the sort of background. So you can get a bit of a better setup there.
And I do think with garden birds that you've got to push yourself again. It's too easy just to say, oh, look, I'll put a little bit of stick up and the bird will sit on top of it. And that's my bit. It's too easy for me to do that. Other people do it. It's brilliant. Great. But for me, I want to always push myself to take something that bit better that's a bit more my style. So, so this kind of thing, it was really hard to do. But the OM1 has revolutionized what I do.
Good. And let's have a look at the next picture. I'm sort of conscious at the time. Oh, this is lovely as well. Where was this taken?
This is taken at Slimbridge, and I'm a great one for watching the weather. If we've got any wild bunches on tonight, I'll be talking about all this tomorrow. But I do watch the weather. I watch the wind conditions, the time of the year, the sun, and for storms. And if the weatherman says changeable, well, when do they not say changeable in the UK? Sunshine and showers. At the end of the day, I know that you can get some amazing lighting conditions. I check the wind because I need the swans coming into the wind, so they stall in the wind. Otherwise, they fly away from you and land. When they're landing, I want them landing into the wind like a plane would. And then again, this is on the OM1, the 40 to 150, the 150 to 400 again. And I was just able to track all the way in, which I really, really enjoy. And I love the feet down, the landing down, and it tracked on the eye detect focus on this. I was testing out the eye detect focus. You remember, I was probably one of the first people here, or even in Europe, to have it, I think. And I was testing out how all the autofocus worked and stuff. So I put the eye detect focus on for birds, and it picked it up.
And do you like that feature of the OM1?
I like it when you know how to turn it off as well. You have to know when to use it and when not to use it, and how to switch it off quickly when it's not working as you want it. Because, in order for any of these eye control features to work, the lighting on the eye has to be perfect. The eye it's almost got to be a yellow eye around with black feathers or something. And few birds' eyes are ever perfect in perfect light. So I think if you rely on it, then I think that's the wrong thing to do. I think you have to know when it's amazing to use and when you just want to use the normal autofocus and be accurate with your points.
And that comes with experience. I
mean, there are certainly times that when I absolutely rely on that eye detect focus. I really do.
Good stuff. Okay, let's go to the next image. I've forgotten where we're at. I remember what's that? Oh no, what's that? I don't know what that was. One of Michela's. We're back. Okay. I tell you what we do.
We actually took quite a few images there as well.
There you go.
Okay,
no, she's back. She's back. Well, that's beautiful.
This is the million view one on Facebook that I had. That's not a particularly brilliant hummingbird picture, but it does have really beautiful colors, and it's got a little bit of blur in the wings. And I see so many hummingbird pictures that are shot against a false background, a bit of cloth with flash, boom, boom. And I'm not into that. I'm not interested in doing that. I want to shoot them in natural light. Yeah. So with sun or light on them, I don't want to shoot them in controlled conditions. Yes, they're coming to feeders, but I want to shoot them where they are in the jungle. And that's my big thing that I like to do. And so I don't like wings frozen. So often I'll blur the wings a little bit. I'll set a slower shutter speed to blur the wings. But here, this is where the eye control focus was astounding. I took a collection of hummingbirds in Ecuador that I just couldn't imagine that I shot. And it just worked brilliantly. But this one was called a sparkling violet ear. What a wonderful name. Sparkling violet. Beautiful. Hi, what a chat up line that would be in a bar, wouldn't it? Hi.
Hi. So, it's just beautiful.
Sparkling violet ear. Hi.
It's my drag name. It's my drag name. Yeah. But it's beautiful.
I love drag. I just love drag. I really love hummingbirds, and that's why I'm going back next year twice to Ecuador, because it's just such an incredible place to be. But once again, it was the tech of the camera. I was on the tripod flex shooter head, 150 to 400, OM1, eye control, probably ISO 1600 or 3200 for a lot of them, but the camera deals with it. The camera doesn't care about those ISOs. Those ISOs are irrelevant with this camera.
Yeah, really it's such a thing of the past with the new OM1, isn't it? It's changed everything as far as it needed it.
I only have OM1s. I've converted my Mark III to infrared.
Yeah, good idea. You've got a second body worth doing, isn't it? It's really good fun. I love this shot. It's just. It just it almost looks like the birds on stage, when you're at the sort of Folie Bergère in Paris or something like that, and they're lifting up the fans behind them. And
it's very hard to get them to do that, though, to have them display full at you. They're displaying obviously to another bird that they're threatening. It's really, really hard to get it. It was literally the only time I got it.
Love it. But beautiful. I love it. Next image, Michela, please, my lovely. Oh, who's this?
Panthera onca, Jaguar, taken this year. So the hummingbird was taken in May. This was taken in August this year. So this is a Jaguar coming again. Eye detect on the eyes, but mammal eye detect. So you got to know how to quickly change it. I love dark to light transitions. Okay, so you will learn with me tonight that it's all about the animals and the fun, but it's also all about the light in various ways. For me, everything's about the light. Dark to light transition gives you mood, gives you shadow, gives you atmosphere, gives you passion in your pictures. And I think too many times we settle when we go out for, I'm going out at 10 o'clock and I'll just do the lights. That's not good light. In my opinion, 1 hour after sunrise, 1 hour before sunset, that's good light. The rest of the time, it's coffee time.
You about light a lot. And like you say, it shows in the images, because I never see any of your images that are just sort of taken at 12 during the day, high contrast, no depth. You've always got that luscious depth to your images. And I think that's exactly why.
I'm not afraid to fail. I'm not afraid to fail. I'm not so desperate in my photography that I have to take thousands of pictures to justify it. I'm not afraid to go out and take nothing. I'm not afraid to where if this Jaguar would have sat 1 foot back, staring at us out the dark, going,
I'm not coming out to play.
You said that tigers were better than us. I'm going to sit back here. Go on, go away. So, I don't mind if that happens, because for me, it is about the light, and it is about shooting something that's worthwhile shooting. And I'm not saying that's the same thing that everyone should do. That's just my vision and the way that I love to shoot, because I like to be, how hard I am on myself. I'm exceptionally hard on myself. I'm brutal on myself about all kinds of things in my life when I shouldn't be. My photography, I'm brutal with the editing, and I'm brutal with what I shoot.
Yeah,
really am, because I'm very picky. But this front foot forward, beautiful eyes, beautiful animal, nice habitat. I darkened it off. I shot it at -1. And then obviously a bit on post-processing, I gave it a bit of extra darkness in the background, just because I like this kind of picture. And commercially, it works very well because an advertiser will put some text on the side. And I always have to have that in mind when I shoot a lot as well, because I'm obviously shooting for commercial reasons. I'm shooting for our stock agents, which I'm still proud to say I'm a professional that sells pictures. There are lots of people that say they're professionals that don't sell pictures. Well, I do sell my pictures, and I have to shoot pictures that people want to buy and can use. So
yeah, exactly.
Anyway, there you go.
I love it. I love it. I love them all. Next picture. Now let's talk about iron birds, because obviously this is your second passion, isn't it? In photography, but you do air to air, not ground to air, right? That's the difference with your stuff.
Well, I started off doing ground to air. My hobby, as a kid, you came to an aviation talk of mine once, didn't you?
Yeah.
If you remember. As a kid,
I did.
Right? As a kid, I used to go to all the air shows with my dad when the planes could thunder overhead, and it was all great. They can't do that now, right? So we go to an air show, and they can be quite a long way away. And I started off like that, and then I started doing air to air, and I did air to air with a plane called a Vulcan, which was just an iconic aircraft. And I go air to air with these people that organize it several times a year. I translate my skills as a wildlife photographer on board. In other words, I try to be creative. When a lot of people want blue skies, I want storms, which is not the greatest thing when you're up in a parachute plane strapped into the parachute deck. I love storms, but I also have things that I want to photograph, and I wanted to photograph the F-35, the new world fighter or NATO fighter, and I wanted to see it fly for myself. So I went over, and my friend who runs the trip said, yeah, you've missed it. Sorry, it's going to come the day after you've got to go, because I had to go back to pick my daughter up from school, so I could only go for half the trip. Said, you're going to miss it. It's not going to come. And they all were in on this, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, last flight of the day before I'm driving back to the airport, he says, right, we've got these two red, we've got this red formation team coming up, not the red arrows, these F5s, and you're going to enjoy it, but sorry, that's it. So I thought, oh, that's nice. So I sat, and I should have just realized I was being set up. And I sat at the front, and these planes came from the back. I could see them approaching. I thought, well, that's the worst formation team I've ever seen, because they were all over the sky. And they're not red, and they've got two tail fins. And my attention, and I turned and I called the person behind me who had organised the trip several words that I will not repeat actually on here, but I mouthed them because you can't hear anything. And we were at something like 8,000 feet, and these lightnings came up right behind us. And as soon as I saw this formation, I knew that's what I wanted. So I tilted the camera a little bit, 40 to 150 I shot it with. I'm using the airplane detect. You can do the airplane detect. So I'm using that to get the front, and it just worked. And I tilt it because it gives it a bit more of a dynamic edge than straight on. I don't mind the other one in the jet wash behind. It's just iconic. And for me to see these jets and to see how they fly, it was an incredible experience, because they came up with two F-16s, and the F-16 is flying all over the place. Yeah. I mean, it's a real, I wouldn't want to go in it, right? This F-35 didn't move in the air. It was absolutely solid. And it was just great to watch. And I like challenging myself with this. It's like my hobby. It's a hobby.
I love it. I mean, it's just, they're stunning. And as I said, going air to air is just a completely different, shot. And as I said, I think this is quite unique and quite special, because there'll be a lot of fans out there of this type of photography. I mean, I've never done it. I'm not really into planes, but I can absolutely see the passion for this style of photography would be amazing. The buzz must have been incredible.
The buzz. I mean, I love me. I'd love to do an ebook. I'm going to do an ebook on my aviation stuff one time. I think I've got a lot of good experiences. Anyway, I'm looking at the time for you. I guess you want to finish on the last one.
Well, I mean, let's go to the next image. Go on, let's keep going. I know,
more.
I can, so we've got two more. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll do the images, and then I know Michelle has got a meeting at 8. So Michelle, if she's happy to disappear at 8, and then I'll look after the comments, and we'll just go through some questions, and I'll delete all the spam because the spammers are already in there. So we will go on for another few minutes after, because we haven't answered any of the questions that are in the feed yet. So go for it.
So taken a month ago in Kenya, where I love working, had some really brilliant clients with me. I started to experiment and push myself to shoot really low angle. Not using remote cameras, having the camera out on the monopod. With the OM1, I could do it because I could trust it to get the autofocus on the eyes 100% all the time. I could trust it with the ISO. silent mode. You know, it's quite difficult holding the 150 to 400 on a mono. You know,
I was going to say sort of low, very low.
I've learned. I've got a cable now. It's much better, so I'm going to tape it to the mono, and I'm going to use it a little bit. Michelle says I have time. I can stay for another few minutes. So so this is lovely. Pour forward, really lovely light. I didn't over process this. It's very easy to process the face with light on it, but there can't be light on it because the sunset's behind. So I just bring up in detail to see the eyes, and that's all. And I just like it. It's a very nice image with, excuse me,
pour up. I love that.
Forward, mean look. I've got some really mean ones, but I didn't show it. I just wanted to show this one because it shows the kind of style. Anyway, so should we quickly do the last one?
Yeah, do the last one, then we'll do a few questions. I love this. I love this image. I mean,
this is the kind of thing I like to do. I like to shoot this kind of image. It's almost 3D. It's not a fire behind it. It's the setting sun. Very dusty place that I like to run my safaris, especially for elephants. I do almost elephant-specific safaris. That's all we do is the big tuskers and the herds because it's fantastic. You get the babies. We had a 3-week-old baby, which is just awesome interacting with us. And then we had the biggest tusker in Kenya that I was able to go up to and sit underneath. So it's amazing. But this night, the sun was setting behind it. I can just see from experience. I just know when this is going to happen. It switches on. Something switches on in a minute. I'm like, right, everyone, shut up. We're going to do this because I think this is going to develop into something incredible. So do this, this, and this. Set your cameras up like this. Look through them and look for these images. And remember that 3/4 of what you're doing is shooting it. 1/4 is the processing when you probably got to bring the darkness a bit down a bit. But yeah, it's just great with the dust behind. I've got a lovely one of a mother and baby doing the curl of the trunk, but I wanted to show this one because it doesn't really get shown much. It's got a shade white balance to increase the color tone, of course, because I'd rather do it in camera than actually on the machine. And that's it, really. Simple. The autofocus works 100%. Because it's got lots of edges, so it can. I don't care where it focuses. It can focus on the tail for all I care, but it's going to actually focus around the head or the leading leg where the light is, and that's. You can put the camera in control. What you can't do is select a single dot because you'd never get it. So this is one for 3x3 grid. Let it sort it out, and take a lot. I absolutely love it. Oh, for me,
I mean, honestly, brilliant. Your images are always stunning, honey, and I love to see the new ones. Obviously, I follow you on Instagram and Facebook, but this is it's just stunning. It does look like a fire, and like you say, that learning to not be scared to underexpose. People want all the detail, they want all the, but actually, silhouettes are incredible, aren't they? So I just go on. I'm going to put a question up. We're going to do a few questions. I know we can run over a few minutes. Doug says, can you talk about this animal and bird eye focusing? I have an older camera, an EM10, and I don't think it has it. Absolutely.
It doesn't, my friend. It probably does have the planes, trains, and automobiles setting.
No, doesn't have anything.
Okay.
No.
Well, no, I'm afraid you have to. It's really hard for me to say this because there's a lot of people out there I know with slightly older Olympus cameras or OM Systems cameras. If you can afford it, you need to get the OM1. And it's not me just saying it. It will revolutionize what you do. And I do a course teaching you how to use it. But it will revolutionize. And so do they, by the way, because I'm not them, they do absolutely brilliant courses. Unlike most manufacturers who leave you high and dry, this crew here do fantastic stuff for you. Right?
We try.
You don't like me saying it. Don't like me saying it, but you can listen for once. They do fantastic work. And it's brilliant. So you're lucky.
Thank you.
But I would say anyone out there, guys, I know it's money, but if you're serious about your photography, flog the 1Xs, flog the old cameras. There's money selling them secondhand, and get an OM1. Really, you in every single way that I can think of, it is a different generation of camera, and it's awesome for me. I don't own any other cameras. I've got 3 OM1s here. That's what I own. So,
and like you say, I converted one of my old ones to infrared, and like you say, if you're doing this type of photography. So David Allen says, did you use subject detection on the elephant, or was it just your skills?
Right. No, you can't. Yeah, as I said, you can't because it can't see the eye. So what I did on that, I turn it off because I don't want it. I don't want the tracking on. I don't want any of that. So I've got a button. I turn it all off, and then I'll use just a big grid. And then my eye looking through the viewfinder. So I'll put the grid across like that central area where the trunk was, where the best light is, and it's not going to get the background. It's going to get an edge. The edge is good enough. The thing you don't want, I should have said, I I was on the converter there, so I was on 1,000 mil because we don't want to spook the elephants. And I had it on 5.6 for that. I didn't want any more depth of field in that because I don't want the background in it.
Right. So, okay. Yeah. I mean, I think, like you say, yeah, that sounds exactly right. Okay, let's have a look through some of the questions because you guys are brilliant. You've all been chatting to each other, which I absolutely love. Where was
guys, you can follow me on Facebook at Wildman Rouse as well. That's my business page. I would say in some ways the pictures are better on there. I post twice a week. Instagram is just every day. If you want to see, I think my best pictures go on Facebook.
Yes, yeah, it's interesting. Well, so many blooming social media channels out there. A gentleman asked, where was the Jaguar photographed? I forgot. Oh, there we go. Dan Presser. Where did you photograph the Jaguar?
Pantanal.
Oh, it was Pantanal, was it?
In the home of the Jaguar. I'm very sorry that you didn't see one because it is an incredible experience. But I've been to Jaguar preserves in Belize, for example, in Coxcomb Basin, and not seen one where it's very difficult. I've been other places where I haven't seen Jaguars at all. But that when you go to that part of the Pantanal now, and in the old days, I go to the northern Pantanal, you can see Jaguars reasonably easily. I mean, we've got 2 Jaguar tours I'm just about to announce for next year, and I won't give 100% guarantee, but it's the only tour where I would give 100% guarantee that you'd see something. You're going to see it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the same for any tour and any wildlife. I think most people are expecting if they go on a big tour and spend money that they're guaranteed to see stuff. Well, they're totally not, are they? That's the point, isn't it?
It's about the experience, though. It's about the learning, the experience, the banter, and stuff like that. So I say when you come on an expedition with one of us, you're coming on you're not coming along to take a million pictures. Hopefully we're going to put you in the right place at the right time in an encounter to get some good stuff, but we're going to help you get what you get.
I mean, every time you go to Svalbard, how many times have I said, I want to come to Svalbard? I've said it about 100 times. It is the place I want to go. I literally want to just, every year, I know, I looked. So talking of that, not the Pantanal, but talking of cold weather places. Oh, because you've not shot penguins with the bird AF yet.
I've not shot penguins with the bird detect, but there is no reason why not, because they have quite a well-defined eye, and a lot of them have. I wore mascara at the weekend for Halloween. Yeah, there's a picture of that you've seen on Facebook.
Yes,
but they have some of them have a white line around the eye or a yellow line that helps define their eye. So I think it would actually work quite well. But they do have black eyes. The exception is the chin strap or the Adelie that has like a little black dot inside a white eye. That would work very, very well. But emperors, kings, they have black eyes. It may not. You may have to go back to the. But it will detect the face. Here's the thing: it will detect the face, and if you're shooting it. And the beak is parallel, then it's going to be in focus and as you want. It's only when the beak is facing you that you want it to get the eyes, and it might not. So that's all.
Yeah, because the algorithm is set. I mean, what they do is how to make the algorithm is they basically plot millions and millions of images, millions, and they plot between the spaces between the eyes, the ears, and all that sort of stuff, and it goes into this big algorithm. And so, there are things. It was the cat and dog algorithm was picking up otters because it can still see the eye. There is a certain part of the algorithm that still works, but it wouldn't work as well as if it's on a cat on 4 legs, for instance.
I wish it wasn't a cat and dog algorithm. I wish it was an animal algorithm. That's my big wish for you, because whilst it does work on animals well. We have a bird algorithm. We should have an animal algorithm.
Maybe you need to write a letter to Santa, because it's on the cards, I'm sure. We always said from day one, this is a progressive system, and the algorithm to build, for instance, an airplane algorithm is probably big, but quite easy to build. One for every animal is massive. So I would imagine that takes time. So who knows? Watch this space. Just a quick question from Trevor. Hello, Trevor. How are you doing, my lovely? What method does Andy use for getting correct exposure on backlit subjects?
There's not really anything correct. You just don't want to shoot it too bright. So I'm always dark. You're in the viewfinder. It's what you see is what you get. So literally, I will, as long as I don't get it too dark where I have to brighten it, because that's when you start getting noise. I'd almost rather shoot it slightly too bright where I have to darken it. And then you don't get the noise. If you brighten it, you do. And I don't want to burn the highlights on the wings. That's one of the big things. So you've obviously got your histogram in the top corner. I'd like to have that histogram movable. So
right. Okay, this is good.
Would be nice. But I look at that all the time, and it's very easy to see on that histogram, when it's going to burn out against the right-hand axis. And as long as it doesn't do that, I'm happy with the exposure on the backlight.
Brilliant. And practice. Okay, we've got a couple of more questions. Chad says, for Osprey flight shots, I use CAF bird detection. Would you use CAF plus tracking? And do you ever turn on eye detection for birds in flight?
Oh, totally, all the time. I'd always use CAF tracking, because what I can do with tracking, I can light up the whole square screen, just put the tracking on and let the camera deal with it, which I'd much rather do with something like that. Because if the Osprey suddenly sees something, it comes and turns and swoops. You may not react to it fast enough with the AF, although probably the sky in the background, the AF will react. I'd much rather it was just tracking the eye in good light.
Right, yeah. And I think the same, the thing is, if you're not getting what you want from Bird AI or CF tracking, plug in. Andy does courses. Andy, he does workshops and all that sort of thing. So all you need to do is get in touch via social. You could get a course. We do loads of videos. There is so much information out there, and it is trying the different ways to see how you cope and your sort of the way forward, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got an OM1 course I wrote to help people, get the OM1 AF and Pro Capture and get it right in camera, because it's so amazingly powerful that I want people to be out there winning awards with OM Kit, and using it. So I wrote this OM1 thing. It's on my website because I just want to help people.
Yeah, and there's a customer or a lovely viewer that wants to help you. He says, off topic, but Andy, you need to find a proper fully quiet acupuncturist to sort your back out. I've been doing so for 15 years. No better quick fix. You ready to go under the...
No, I've done it already. It's spinal and it needs an operation, unfortunately. But
that means time out of work and all sorts.
No, it doesn't. No, it's keyhole, but no. I'm not going to. But thank you. It's a lovely offer. It's a lovely offer, and thank you very much. And I do believe in acupuncture.
If it's a keyhole surgery, you could have an Olympus camera, because that generally they are all there for keyhole surgery on our old medical.
My neighbour works for Olympus Medical.
Yes. Oh yes, that's right. Yes, your neighbour does. See if he can get you in there. Okay, let's have a quick look up. I do need to check some questions, make sure I haven't missed any. But obviously, there's always going to be comments. There's always going to be lots of questions. I hope we've asked a few. There are a couple of places left at the Falconry Centre, which we are doing in Hagley. Hagley in December. Yeah, I think there's one or two places left. So I'm so looking forward to doing an outdoor workshop. I cannot wait to get out and about. So I will be there, and myself and Andy will be there, and there'll be a few OM1s and a couple of longer lenses if people are going to use them.
And I'm controlling what goes on photographically during the day. So I'm not just turning up. I'm the boss.
He's the boss. I just stand there handing out cameras.
Well, yeah. What I mean is that don't think that they're just going to do it. I'm going to do these things for you to get better pictures. So I'm used to doing workshops there. We just did one with a wild bunch. So we've got a lot of really cool things set up. And of course, it depends on the day, what the weather's like. But if the bald eagle and the great grey fly as well as they did the other day, then it's going to be great.
Yeah, honestly, I can't wait. It's nice that we can start sort of moving the workshop. And as I said, on the 15th, Andy's doing a Zoom with me sort of moderating. So it's all about Pro Capture. So if you want a proper real life user, someone, not just about the buttons and how to set it up, that's David's job, but Andy does this professionally. So if you want real life tutorage on how to use Pro Capture and how to get the best out of Pro Capture and when to press the button, all this sort of stuff, that is there in the Zoom, and there are a few places left on that. Let me have a quick look what else is up. What else are we doing together? We've got loads of stuff coming up, haven't we? Some bits.
We're doing some more workshops, we said. So I've got some ideas for that with you. Yeah, I mean, there's a few bits and bobs going on.
Yeah, we're going to sort of start to plan those for sort of January, February, aren't we?
Yeah. And I've got some good ideas. And again, all my workshops for photographers are teaching technique. It's not necessarily teaching pictures that you're going, brilliant, it's a wild, great grey owl. It's not going to be, it's in Hagley. but they're teaching techniques.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, honestly, darling, the hour has flown by. We went over. I knew we would. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Great.
I've absolutely loved it, as I always do. And it's great to show some new images and how you're getting on with the OM1 and the 150-400. And as I said, if people want to know more, come and join the Zoom. It's going to be really great. We won't be live, so you know it will be really fun and really personal. And I'm really looking forward to it. So thank you so much for joining me. I will say good night to you now, young man.
We all say thank you to you, because all of you do a fantastic job for all of us here. And as I say, not every camera company, in fact, most don't take as much care after their users afterwards as Olympus. Oh, I'm sorry, I said Olympus.
I say it all the time, because you know what? You know, some things still say Olympus, unfortunately. But yeah, just to let you guys know that we've got OM5 preview days coming up all over the world. You need to check the events page for your local area. We have got some workshops coming up from Geraint, who, if you're into macro, because it's fungi season.
Awesome. He
is awesome. He's stuff. So there's some online and off shops, a few places left. Claire and I are doing, we're back. We're doing a coffee with the Claires soon. So watch out for that. That's up. And also, I don't know if you saw, we've got a new show called Ask Me Anything. And there are 8 technical experts across the globe, and every show there'll be different technical experts talking about all sorts of stuff. The show the other night, we had over 100 years experience between us. I mean, and I'm only 4, so so come and join that as well. But for me, it's good night, and from Andy, good night to you as well. See you again soon, guys. Take care. Bye. Get back to your ocarina.